Battery technology isn't exactly new, but something interesting is happening. CATL, the world's biggest lithium battery manufacturer, says that up to half the market could switch to sodium. That's right. The biggest name in lithium batteries is betting against lithium. Looks like lithium might need to recharge its reputation. After all, sodium-ion batteries are nearly as good lithium, and salt is much cheaper and easier to access than lithium. So maybe it's not surprising that CATL and some other companies are getting ready to manufacture huge numbers of them in preparation for what could be a massive market shift. But is sodium really the future of energy storage, or is it just another battery technology destined to live in lithium-ion shadow? I'm Matt Farrell. Welcome to, as I mentioned, CATL is the world's largest battery manufacturer. For perspective, in 2023, CATL's batteries made up around 40% of the global market. That's massive, and a good reason to take the company's views on battery tech seriously. So it's pretty interesting that in a November 2024 interview with Reuters, CATL co-founder Robin Zeng pushed back on the idea that solid-state batteries are the next big thing. Instead, he argued that sodium-ion batteries are the better bet, one with the potential to replace up to half of the market CATL currently dominates. And this isn't just talk. CATL already offers a sodium battery as part of its Freevoy battery pack, a hybrid system combining lithium and sodium batteries for long-range EV. That's surprising, considering sodium's biggest drawback, its lower energy density, usually means bulkier, heavier batteries. And in EV, every ounce and inch matters. But CATL isn't stopping there. The company is set to launch a second-generation sodium battery later this year, claiming an energy density of over 200 Wh/kg. That's still below today's best lithium-ion batteries at 300 Wh/kg, but it's a big leap from its predecessor's 160 Wh/kg and a sign of serious progress. CATL isn't alone in this push. Companies worldwide are ramping up sodium-ion battery production, preparing for what could be a massive market shift. But are sodium batteries truly the next big thing, and if so, what potential does Robin Zeng and the rest of the industry see in them? Sodium-ion pros. The concept behind sodium-ion battery SIBs is pretty straightforward. Sodium behaves a lot like lithium, so SIBs share essentially the same structure as their lithium-ion cousins. They also have a comparable round-trip efficiency RT, meaning you get back nearly the same amount of energy you put in. But there's a trade-off. SIB are less energy dense than lithium-ion batteries, which has historically limited their applications. So why is the battery industry so excited about SIB if they're almost as good as lithium but still lacking in key areas? Well, salt is a lot more accommodating. It's vastly more abundant. There's an entire ocean full of it. It's also easier to extract and doesn't require the destructive mining practices needed for lithium and other precious metals. All this makes SIB cheaper, more sustainable, and less vulnerable to supply chain disruptions and geopolitical tensions. Beyond cost and sustainability, SIB have other advantages. Their chemistry gives them excellent resistance to extreme temperatures. They're less prone to thermal runaway and actually perform better in cold conditions than lithium-ion batteries. Now, to be fair, thermal runaway is pretty rare in lithium-ion batteries. You won't have an issue unless you're dropping your laptop or taking a sledgehammer to it. But in large-scale energy storage, where hundreds of batteries are packed together, safety matters. If you're setting up a solar farm in a hot, dry, wildfire-prone region, say the U.S. Southwest or much of Australia, SIB might be the smarter, safer choice. That cold resistance is also why some in the EV industry are paying attention, despite SIB's energy density shortcomings. In freezing temperatures, lithium ions can get lost on their way into the anode, plating onto the outside instead, which lowers efficiency or even causes a short. Sodium batteries are more resistant to this problem. Most lithium batteries start struggling at -20 degrees C, 4 degrees F, while CATL claims its second-gen sodium batteries can handle as low as -40 degrees C, 40 degrees F. One reason the company is eyeing them for EV. And if the world's largest battery maker getting serious about SIB isn't enough to grab your attention, just wait until you hear what the second largest is up to. And speaking of staying plugged in, let's talk. So, if the world's largest battery maker getting serious about SIB isn't enough to spark your curiosity, let's talk about the world's second largest. BYD in China. That would be BYD, CATL's longtime rival. And BYD is going big on sodium. The company broke ground on a new gigafactory last year. and once it's fully operational in 2027, it's expected to crank out 30 gigawatt-hours of sodium-ion batteries per year. Looks like BYD is really seasoning the competition. This is part of BYD's push to diversify its energy storage portfolio and drive down the cost of sodium batteries. The company says its SIB are already on track to match the price of standard lithium iron phosphate LiFeP batteries by 2025, and eventually, as the technology matures, they could be up to 70% cheaper. BYD is also rolling out its first utility-scale sodium battery energy storage system BESS, the *MC3 SIB energy storage system *. What a coincidence, C-Cube was my DJ name. The system boasts a power output of 155 kW and a storage capacity of 3 MWh. That's solid, but still lower than the average lithium-ion BESS, which typically holds around 5 MWh. So the big questions are, will sodium's unique advantages help it compete with existing lithium systems? And will BYD's predicted price drop actually happen? If either answer is yes, expect to see a lot more SIB in the near future. But for now, we wait. And BYD isn't the only one making moves in China. Zhejiang Huna Energy recently announced the registration and coding of its own sodium-ion production line. The company can now produce 4 GWh of sodium-ion battery cells and modules, and this is just phase 1. The company claims it will scale up to 20 GWh of sodium-ion production capacity. Of course, they haven't set a firm deadline for that, so take it with a few grains of sodium, but it's another signal that the industry is shifting. And given that the planet isn't running out of salt anytime soon, I sure hope it does. Natron, of course. China isn't the only player pushing ahead with sodium-ion tech. In the U.S., California-based Natron Energy has developed SIB that allegedly charge and discharge 10 times faster than lithium-ion batteries. With an estimated lifespan of 50,000 cycles, they sound promising. But there's a catch. Natron hasn't released weight-based energy density figures, which is typically a weak spot for SIB. A 2022 Chemical and Engineering News article put their energy density at just 70 Wh/kg, on the very low end of the sodium-ion spectrum. While that's fine for stationary storage applications like data centers and telecoms, it doesn't exactly inspire confidence in their EV ambitions. What really makes Natron worth discussing, though, is its push for full-scale commercial production. The company is building its own sodium-ion gigafactory in Edgecombe County, North Carolina, with a planned production capacity of 24 GWh, and this isn't Natron's first rodeo. Last year, it opened a smaller sodium battery factory in Holland, Michigan, currently the only one of its kind in the U.S., at least until the larger facility comes online. At full capacity, the Holland plant is expected to produce 600 megawatts of sodium-ion batteries annually. It's unclear how much it's producing right now, but Natron says battery shipments will begin this June. Dinka Group, though SIB are finally coming into their own, researchers haven't stopped pushing the envelope. Over in the U.S., scientists from the Dinka lab have developed a sodium-ion battery using a new organic cathode made from, I'm not even going to try to say bistetrominobenzoquinone, because it would short-circuit my brain. I'm just going to call it TAQ. So, what's an organic cathode? And what does it do for a battery? Here, organic just means that this cathode is made from readily available, non-metallic elements stuff like carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. Lithium-ion battery anodes are often made from similar materials, usually graphite, but making the cathode organic as well is a big deal. Normally, cathodes rely on metals that are scarce and difficult to mine, like cobalt. A fully organic battery where both the anode and cathode are metal-free could be a game changer. So why aren't all batteries using organic cathodes already? The problem is that they tend to dissolve into the electrolyte, degrading both the electrolyte and the cathode. But according to the Dinka Group, TAC is completely insoluble, highly conductive, and boasts a high energy density. In fact, it could rival traditional cobalt-based cathodes at roughly *1/3 the cost. TAQ was originally developed for lithium-ion batteries, but the results sparked a new idea. What if they applied it to sodium-ion batteries? Since one of sodium's biggest drawbacks is its lower energy density, why not address that weakness while keeping all the cost and sustainability benefits? Adapting the cathode for sodium batteries took a year of refinement, as the researchers had to tweak design principles that didn't translate easily from lithium-ion technology, but the results surprised them. In the words of lead author Tianyong Chen, the binder we chose, carbon nanotubes, facilitates the mixing of TiQ crystallites and carbon black particles, leading to a homogeneous electrode. The carbon nanotubes closely wrap around TiQ crystallites and interconnect them. Both of these factors promote electron transport within the electrode bulk, enabling an almost 100% active material utilization, which leads to almost theoretical maximum capacity. Now, unlike the other sodium batteries we've discussed, this breakthrough is still in the lab. There's no telling when, or if it will be commercialized, pass third-party tests, or overcome all the usual hurdles, but it's still an exciting development for both lithium and sodium batteries. And for what it's worth, the Dinka Group's initial research was funded by Lamborghini. So if this tech does make it to market, a luxury automaker is already in line, ready to capitalize on it. While the future looks bright for SAB, Northvolt beware. Just because it glitters doesn't mean it's salt. In November 2023, Swedish manufacturer Northvolt unveiled its own sodium battery, boasting a respectable 160 Wh/kg energy density. Respectable, but not exactly rock-salt solid. The company had already made waves with its nickel, manganese, cobalt NMC formula, but like many others, it aimed to expand. After launching its first gigafactory in Skellefteå, Sweden, and setting up additional facilities in Sweden, Poland, and Germany, Northvolt set its sights on North America, planning a battery factory in Montreal. But by the following November, Northvolt had filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Since this is the restructuring type of bankruptcy, it's not as dire as it sounds. Northvolt says its Swedish operations will continue as usual, and its German and North American subsidiaries, funded separately, aren't affected. I'm not an international corporate financial law channel, so I won't pretend to know all the implications. Chapter 11 is complicated, or so I'm told. On one hand, Northvolt claims this voluntary reorganization will give them access to $145 million in cash collateral and $100 million in debtor-in-possession financing. On the other hand, bankruptcy, no matter the type, doesn't exactly inspire confidence. So, is this just financial finessing or a sign of deeper trouble? I guess we'll find out. There are still some lingering issues with sodium batteries. Despite what CATL, BIDE, and Natron are saying, I remain skeptical about their role in EV. The biggest hurdle, energy density. Sodium-ion batteries simply don't pack as much power per pound as lithium does. And while they use cheaper materials, their lower energy density means the cost per unit of stored energy actually ends up higher. The savings from cheaper components might eventually balance this out, but for now, it's complicated. There's also an economic twist. Sodium batteries gained traction during the lithium shortage, but now lithium prices have plummeted, down 70% in the past 3 years due to oversupply. That price drop has weakened the financial case for sodium, at least for now. In a February 2025 Science article, battery chemist Dan Steingart, Columbia University, pointed out that sodium-ion manufacturers are still too small to benefit from economies of scale. And a January 2025 Stanford study examining SIB's path to market success noted that when, or if, they'll become cost competitive is still highly uncertain. And of course, lithium still has an iron phosphate grip on multiple industries. Even with SIB's potential drag yen, ROP compatibility, shifting manufacturing and consumer demand will take time. This creates a catch-22. Sodium batteries will only get cheaper when they're widely produced, but they might never hit that scale until they're already cheaper. So where does that leave us, AB? Honestly, in a pretty exciting spot. Too often, when covering new battery tech, I have to pump the brakes with the usual disclaimers. It's still in research. It's years away from commercialization, etc. But sodium-ion batteries, they're already rolling out, backed by some of the biggest battery makers on the planet. This might be one of the few times a salty market outlook is actually a good thing. That alone puts them high on the technological readiness level, arguably a 9 for BESS applications, and a few steps behind that for others. Yes, SAB still have hurdles, but compared to other emerging battery technologies, these challenges seem much more manageable. And if they pull it off, sodium-ion might just be the seasoning our energy grid needs. But what do you think? Do you think sodium has a shot at catching on? Jump into the comments and let me know, and be sure to listen to my follow-up podcast, Still TBD, where we'll keep this conversation going. Thanks as always to my patrons for your continued support and helping to keep the channel going. Keep your mind open, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.